All right, back on Get Up. We are 8 days away from the NFL draft, and recently the 8th pick has produced some very good players. The Falcons have picked there a lot, each of the last 3 years, actually. And they have drafted Michael Penix and Bijan Robinson and Drake London. The Panthers, who select 8 this year, once upon a time took Christian McCaffrey, number 8 overall. So that would be interesting. That would be the best case scenario for them, would be to draft a player that good. We're doing best case scenarios today, and so Louis Riddick, my partner on the draft coverage a week from tomorrow night, I've been sort of trying to put together some best case scenarios. And to me, for the Cowboys, the best case scenario would be for Ashton Jeanty to fall to them at number 12. I've been following the mock drafts going all the way back to when they began at the very end of the NFL regular season. In the early part of that process, Ashton Jeanty's name was being associated with the Cowboys left and right. And now all of a sudden he has vaulted way past that. Nothing has happened. Nothing has changed. He hasn't played a game. But all of a sudden now I'm seeing him mocked in the top 10 basically everywhere, most frequently to the Raiders at 6.
Yeah, that's why. That clip on the screen?
Because he's just that good.
Exactly. Look, when you think about matching guys up with fit, look, at 6, do you think that Pete Carroll doesn't look at him and go, say, let's see, Marshawn Lynch, maybe even better speed? You think Chip Kelly's not going, what could I do with a guy like that? Of course they are. Look, he's not getting to 12. He better not get to 12. He shouldn't get to 12. He shouldn't get past 6. He shouldn't get past 10 to Chicago. Think about Chicago behind this new interior 3 that they've comprised on the offensive line. With with the kind of play calling that they're going to have, with Caleb Williams, I think that is a scenario where you could literally be saying this. Ashton Jeanty could be pushing to break Eric Dickerson's rookie rushing record. You give him enough touches. He'll average over 4.5, maybe 5 yards a carry, I believe. You look at the lower body power this young man has, the vision this guy has, the home runs, plus 20-yard explosives, right? Plus 10-yard in the run game. This guy had plus 60-yard runs in college football, the way some guys would dream of producing plus 10-yard runs. And it's not a fluke. So there's no way he should get to Dallas at 12. There's just no way. He's too good for that. And I know it's running back, and I know you and I and Mel and Peter are going to have this discussion. But the emphasis in the NFL, see, I'll tell you what, Saquon Barkley has changed a lot of things for a lot of people this year. Okay, what he showed you was this. All year long, what do we talk about multiple times on this show? Jalen Hurts isn't producing the big outside the number, plus 20-yard explosives down the field, right? And we're sitting here going, but they don't really need him. You know why? Because 26 is doing it. Now, I know people will say, well, look at the offensive line that he had. Well, no kidding. Every good running back has a good offensive line. Give Ashton Jeanty that kind of offensive line, he'll give you that kind of production. He is a difference maker.
Good conversations that are being had. Bucky Irving led all rookies in rushing with 1,300 yards as a 4th-round pick. Tyrone Tracy was...
Did Detroit need Jahmyr Gibbs?
No, and he's been amazing.
No.
Would you give Jahmyr Gibbs back?
No.
If you were Detroit?
Of course not.
But what I'm saying, it's the timeliness of the explosive plays. It's the game-changing nature of this.
And they took Amon-Ra St. Brown in the 4th round. Go ahead.
Right. So in this particular draft, teams are in love with the running backs all the way through, like a deep and excellent running back class.
Yeah.
I think Jeanty's probably special, right? He sets himself apart from the rest. But if you're Dallas and you're thinking, well, 2nd and 3rd round running backs are going to be difference makers this year too, then you might maybe Matthew Golden, the receiver at 12. Now you've got your number 2 receiver. You get your running back a little bit later. I think that makes a lot of sense. Sure, if Jeanty falls to 12, maybe because the reason Saquon Barkley changed things, and Lewis hit on it, is not because, we were undervaluing running backs this whole time. It's because Saquon Barkley is a game-changing, difference-making player. It just happens to play running back. Jahmyr Gibbs is a home run hitter at the running back. They drafted him thinking 3rd down weapon, all these kinds of things, not just running back. So if you have that guy and he can produce on a level that the wide receiver we might take wouldn't, then that makes sense.
That's the thing. And look, I'm not saying this applies to all running backs, okay, clearly. But Jahmyr is different. Jeanty is different. Saquon is different. And if you believe that this guy can wind up kind of like mitigating and softening the blow of not maybe having some of the explosives come other places, you take that. I don't care if he plays tight end.
Right.
If you believe he can do that, that's what you do. Obviously, it's all a gamble. It's all about forecasting future performance.
Sure.
But look, Ashton, knowing the kid, knowing where he comes from, knowing the opportunities that he had to leave Boise and make an absolute fortune, he's wired the right way, is what I'm saying. Like, this guy
not going to be there at 12. He's not. I mean, there's legit 2 or 3 teams that might take him in the top 10.
I just love the running back
Raiders.
conversation, that's all.
No doubt. But my thought is take Matthew Golden, the best year that Dak
Wide receiver, Texas, who ran a 4.29 at the Combine.
And then you can have him opposite of CeeDee Lamb, which you have a ton of cloud coverage around CeeDee Lamb. We all know he's the main matchup you got to stop with this Dallas Cowboy offense. In 2021, when the Dallas Cowboys also had Amari Cooper, a great wide receiver too to that offense, Dak Prescott threw for 37 touchdowns. I got that for him, but shout out to him. Amazing stat because it makes so much sense. If you have that second guy, you can't cloud. You can't double CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
You got to account for this kid as well. Now, if Ted McMillan's there, then you go with whichever receiver you like the most. But ultimately, I prefer Matthew Golden. He's a route technician. He ran a 4.29. You have that top end speed where you can take the top off, and then you can have CD do some interior stuff. That's hard to stop.
I don't think that's on the rundown, the whole discussion about Ted McMillan.
Right, Tedero McMillan.
If he's there, that's
wide receiver.
That's going to be another great discussion.
prospect.
Who, like last year when I saw him play against Arizona State, I'm sitting there going, that was like in 2023. I'm going, this is the Blitnikoff Award winner. This guy's going to be a top 5 pick. And now there's just a bunch of other questions about some of the things that he has said, some of the way, his commitment to football. Volleyball is my number 1 sport.
Volleyball, my number 1 sport, is a very alarming red flag.
That's right. That's right. You know what? It's going to be, hey, I'll tell you what, when his name is on the board, if it starts to move down, you know exactly why.
Every sense I'm getting is that it is going to start to move down, even though he's probably the most talented receiver. Super quickly. I got Jet fans telling me that if Ashton Jeanty is there at 7, the Jets should take him. Will they?
Breece Hall is going to have his contract up soon, obviously. You can say this guy's even better than Breece, and we can get a new start on this. But I don't know if I would take running back if I'm the Jets.
Okay. Tonight's NBA play-in tournament game. And we're going to do some best-case scenarios today. Let's start with the Giants because they feel like they're in the middle of all of this. But we'll work our way through a bunch of different teams. So, Louis Riddick, here's what I have identified as what I think is the best-case scenario. The Giants take Abdul Carter at 3. Then, if some of these things that I'm hearing come to fruition, and Shedeur Sanders starts really sliding down the board, the Giants trade up maybe to 25 to get in front of the Rams, trade up with the Packers, who might be willing to move out of the first round, trade up to get in front of the Rams, and take a sliding Shedeur Sanders somewhere in the 20s. If that happens, it feels to me like that would be an overwhelming best-case scenario, and as ridiculous as it sounds to say, I don't think it's out of the question. No,
I don't think it's out of the question either. You totally could see that being a situation that they'd be more than happy with. Because I think they'd be ecstatic with, as long as, obviously at the number 3 pick, if Abdul Carter is there and they wind up taking him, he winds up giving them the return that they want, meaning he becomes a double-digit sack guy, a 12, 15 sack guy per year, which we're all projecting.
Is he Micah Parsons waiting to happen?
Yeah, you know what? He is. He has that kind of potential. He has that kind of get-off. He has that kind of explosiveness. He has that kind of versatility where he can play off ball, he can play on ball. He asked to play defensive end this year because he wanted to do the same things that Micah did. He saw how lucrative of a decision this could be and how impactful of a decision it could be. Yeah, look, and if Shedeur, if you wind up picking him, you move back into the first round and you wind up picking him, he becomes a decades-long franchise-caliber player that winds up winning you division titles. That was a slam dunk. It was a slam dunk draft for them.
Is Shedeur? Am I living in a world, Dan Graziano, where Shedeur Sanders could be available when we get to the 21st, 22nd pick?
I don't think it's out of the question at all. I mean, look, if he slides past New Orleans at